What's up, y'all? This is the Fem Future podcast where we, you, me, and the audience around us get the opportunity to learn from amazing women curating a better future for themselves and for others. I'm your host, Amber Latrice, and today I am joined by an author, a content creator. She's an entrepreneur, a podcaster, a visionary strategist, and a life purpose coach. Miss Kamisha, how are you doing today?
Hi, Amber. I am fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure being here tonight.
Oh man, thank you for being on the pod. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, you and I got the opportunity to connect a little bit before we started recording, but for our audience members who haven't, can you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Okay, sure. Awesome. So as you've heard, my name is Kamisha King. I'm from the beautiful island of Barbados. I am a visionary strategist and a life purpose coach. I help women to birth their visions and also to walk in their purpose.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. And I know we have quite a few women listening right now that are working to walk in their purpose. So I'm excited to hear about what we get into.
Yep.
Good stuff. So thank you so much for giving us a brief introduction of who you are now. For those that have tuned into the podcast, you know where this is going. For those that are new, let me explain it. We love to get a baseline of where people are, but then we love to get to know them a little bit better and take a quick leap in time into the past. So I have a question about your younger self, Kamisha.
Sure.
Who were you at age 16?
Ooh, I was becoming, and I'm still becoming. I was further along in terms of becoming. And I think it started even before 16, so I can get to how 16 really started to,
Take us back.
Yeah. So at the age of 4, I remember seeing my parents, they would argue consistently. Almost every night they would have an argument, and they kept going back and forth because I was surrounded by dysfunction. I came from a family of dysfunction, and that's all I knew, to the point that I thought that maybe this is the norm, until I got so caught up in watching television. So TV was really my escape. So at the age of 4, I would sit in front of the TV and I would watch these movies of these families with these glamorous lives. And I just started to imagine, and I started to actually visualize myself in that space. But I didn't understand that that was visualization. I just thought that, can my life be like this? Like, I'm seeing families come together. I'm seeing families, go out, they're having like family picnics, and they're doing reunions with the shirts and everything, and I'm thinking I want to have something like that. But when I look at my reality, what I saw was consistent profanity going on throughout the house. I see them fighting. Sometimes it was physical. I actually witnessed my mom and grandmother at the age of 4. My grandmother, she threw hot water at my mom, and my mom threw back hot food that was on the stove back at her at the age of 4. So I'm there screaming, and I'm trying to stop because this chaos is happening, and then I'm like, oh my goodness, what's happening? Then I witnessed my mother having a fight with my sister's mom. And when I say that, then you understand that my dad cheated, because he was cheating on her for quite some time, and they were together. She stayed with him for 13 years. And at such a young age, I was witnessing all of these things, and I didn't know how to piece it together, what you would call that. But I just knew that something about this is just not right. I didn't have any role model as yet until I got older, coming up to age 16. And, I had an uncle, he was pursuing greater. And I was very excited because I now had someone who was close to me that I could, begin to model their life. And that for me showed me that, what better is here. I started creating these vision boards, but what we call vision boards now, I didn't know that was a vision board. I would stick things on my bedroom because I shared a bedroom with my sister. And I shared with her for many years. And even then I would place those like quotes and stuff, like affirmations, because that's what it really is. But at that time I didn't know it was affirmations. So I would say things like, this room is filled with love. We will walk together. Because the reason why I was saying those things was because my mom and her sister didn't get along too well for too long. They were fighting. I saw them fight more than once, physically and verbally. And I didn't want that lifestyle for me and my sister. So that brought me all up to the age of 16 now, where I decided, I need to go for better, because what I'm seeing consistently in front of me is not going to work. And if I want to get out of here, it means I have to do something different. So I started to I wanted to pursue things where I could, develop myself. So I was a part of a lot of curriculum activities. So I did netball, I did drama, I did dancing, I did singing, anything to keep me out of the house. I was involved in everything, every group, every club in my community. I wanted to be a part of it because it kept me busy. It kept my mind thinking about better stuff. And that's where I was focusing. So at the age of 16, I was just looking for ways to become better than what I was seeing.
Wow. 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 That is a lot that you went through up to that 16 point of even getting to the place where you have the option of figuring out how to get out of the house. Now, I have a real quick clarity question for those of us that are in the States, but maybe just me. Maybe I'm the only one that doesn't know. What is netball?
That's okay. I would tell you. So, okay, it's similar to basketball. The difference is you do not dribble the ball. So, yeah, you don't dribble the ball. So you pass the ball. There's a fancy step that you make, like a 1-2 step, and then you pass the ball and you score just the same. You don't dunk, but you score pretty much just the same. It's just a bit more girly. You have all like short skirts and your socks and your sneakers and everything, and looking fancy with your bibs on and everything, and you play on the court just the same.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to check out netball. Yeah. I also don't know bibs, but we're gonna check it out. Sure. Amazing. Amazing. It sounds like a fun game to play.
Oh yeah, it really is. I was really good. I was the captain at one point.
Come on, captain.
I actually got accepted to my secondary school, which you guys will call high school, because of my being able to play so well. So they wanted me to be a part of their school because of that. It's really good. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So you got to this place where you were 16 and you were taking opportunities to essentially kind of escape through some of these activities. So you didn't necessarily have to deal with what was going on at home. So what was that journey like to go from that space of 16 where you're doing all these things to escape to this space where you are now, where you're doing all these things to help other women that may have faced very similar situations and circumstances?
You see, God has a very funny way of, redirecting your path if you tend to sway a little bit, right? And I didn't recognize that he was allowing all these things to happen to me because this was a part of my purpose journey. So I just felt like, why are you doing this to me? Like, why do I have to go through this and sit through this? And we were very close to the poverty line too as well. Like we didn't have a lot. So we had to make do with what we have. So that for me now at that age of 16 and branching out, my focus was let's get out. So education was my way out. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do brilliant in everything because I understand that that's the only way I'm going to get out. Well, guess what? And then finished secondary school, I didn't do too well. I got distracted. I got caught up with boyfriends and stuff, and I only got 4 CXCs. And at that time, it was like, okay, I'm getting ready to go to college. You need to have mathematics. I didn't have mathematics because I hated mathematics. I didn't like to do the algebra and all the other stuff. I was like, that's just not for me, So I struggled with that. But here I am. This is my only way out. I remember my dad, I think he was totally upset with me because he felt like I should have done better because all of my teachers expected me to do great, but I was caught up. Nonetheless, I decided that I'm going to still pursue college. And I remember registering for college and everybody said, just go back, do extra classes and come back the next year. Don't do that to yourself because they're not going to accept you if you don't have mathematics because they usually look for math and English, and I only had English. Right. So I'm like, nope, because I just had this thing in me, this burning thing in me that I needed to prove them wrong. I understood that I had messed up because I got distracted. And because I want to prove to myself that, I can do this, I proceeded. So I went ahead, I registered at college, and would you believe that I actually got in? They accepted.
Hey.
I was like, oh my God, I was ecstatic. But then again, I had another problem because I could not pay the fees. At that time, the fees were just less than $500, 500 Barbados dollars, which is about 250 US, right? Like, who could not
For
pay that?
college?
Yeah, for the college, yes, because it was a community.
Oh, I wish.
I'm telling
That's
you.
that's everything?
That's everything, because it's the government actually subsidize it. So we don't have to pay the full cost. We just pay a portion of that cost. And at that time, it was really low and I couldn't even afford it. And I was thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I didn't know what was going to happen. And I just prayed. I asked God for his assistance and to help. And I can't even remember how everything came together, but it came together. I got the funds and I was able to go ahead and actually apply. So now I'm there. I'm able to apply. And guess what? I applied for law and political studies. Right. And I always remember I wanted to be a lawyer. Guess why I wanted to be a lawyer? I came from so much dysfunction. I thought becoming a lawyer, I could save my family, because the road that they were headed, they were going to be going to prison, like different things was going to be happening. So I thought, if I become a lawyer, I can defend them, I can fight for them, get them out. So I pursued that and I pushed my way all through to make sure that I did well in my college studies. Then I dropped in some of my grades again because I got caught up with being distracted with family affairs and different things. But being the person that I am, so determined, I continued to push through because the vision never changed for me. The paths and the methods and the tools, they were changing, but the vision was always clear, because the vision was, I want to get out. I don't want to continuously live like this anymore. And I want to prove to myself and my family that we can get out. We don't have to stay below the poverty line any longer. So I pursued it. At the end, I was able to finish my studies. And then, because with the qualifications that I had at the time, I could not have been accepted to university. So that's why I had to take the step of college first, build that up, get my associate degree, and then I can go on. So after that, then I pursued university. And then that started a journey now. So I'm building now from that 16-year-old girl coming all the way up. And when I was at university, I couldn't even believe that I was there. Because I was the second person in my family outside of my uncle. It was just me that had gone to that level, of studies. Everybody else had pretty much stopped after secondary school, after high school. Nobody else was doing anything else. So I was like, I became overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to finish this? And this is hard and everything, the finances, because now you have to pay more for university. You're not going to pay less at the point where I was at community college. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to figure out how I'm going to be able to pay this. But God always sends a plan, where there's a will, there is a way. And I was willing to do what it took, so that I can be able to achieve that. So I pursued it with everything in me. I made sure I did extra classes if I needed to. I did everything possible so that I can get my degree. And I was able then to graduate with my degree. And I thought I was going to be a lawyer still. But when I got there, God said, no, let's change that. And I pursued labor employment relations, which is still law, but it's more law from the labor perspective, right? And I'm thinking, okay, that's where I'm going to be going. And then when I graduated and I got a job, I'm working for a labor union, but that's for the employer's side. And I thought, okay, yes. But then the position that was open, because when I started that job, I started as an intern. And this is just to show how, when you have a vision in front of you, you are willing to do what it takes, things will work out. Because I started as an intern, I wasn't sure it was going to be an opportunity. And how I found the internship was because at that time, I was actually working at the university. That's how I was able to help pay my school fees. I found a job at university. And it was, I mean, the job was just, they had a fancy name for it, but pretty much what I did, I cut out the newspaper, like the pictures from the newspaper, anything that highlighted the university, and then I paste them in a book and they archived them. That was the job. So in between classes, that's where you would find me. I didn't have time to go to lunch because I had work. And I would do that every single day to make that money. And while cutting those newspaper clippings out is when I found out about this organization, a labor union organization for the employers. And I thought to myself, okay, I recognize the lady in the photo. And I remember that I had saw her previously at an event I went to. So what did I do? I went back to the event, I found her, and I persuaded her about internship. And she said, I'm not sure if that's something we are doing right now, but I'll check for you. And I prayed on it. And then she called me and she said, okay, let's come in. They're looking for interns. They're going to give you an opportunity to be an intern. I went in, I got that opportunity, became an intern. And then from there, I was praying all along because I want a door to open. There were no vacancies. Everything was filled. It's a small company. There was no options. But could I tell you that at the end of my internship, they created an opportunity. They created a post just for me, research officer. I'm like, oh my God, because I was so focused. I had my vision board. I was looking at it every single day. I was marking it. I was making sure I was following the steps. And this is what I was pursuing because I knew that I needed my education, to funnel my way out. So I did that for 6 months. They weren't sure if they could keep me on after 6 months. So when 6 months ended, the contract ended, and I was crushed because I felt like, oh my God, like, I need a job because money started to come in. I started to help out in the house. I started to do things. I thought this was going to, last a little bit longer. They would find a way to keep me on, but that did not work. So the contract was ended and I was gone. And that was at the end of the year in December. So I remember still praying and pursuing another job. Then I found another job, temporary. It was temping for someone who was out, which was fine because it meant I still got some money. And while I was at that organization, I got a call. The same organization where I had left, they said, guess what? We had someone who retired.
Come on.
I know she has retired. It has opened up a vacancy in the organization. We don't even want to do an interview. We just want to rehire you for a new post. I'm like, wow. So they called me back, rehired me for the new post. And guess what that new post was? Training. Now, at that time, I was a bit like, I was excited, obviously, because I get a job, I get to be paid more money, but it was not really what I thought I was going to go into, right? I didn't thought training was for me. I'm like, oh God, would you put me in training? But during those years when I was there, I had to learn how to, because what we did training for the organization. So I had to manage over 23,000 employees in terms of their, for training for them, everything doing with labor employment. And that was what I was managing, small scale and large scale projects and so on. And I just kept building. I didn't quite understand. At some point, I started to complain to God again because I wanted to do, something legal. I wanted to do something in law. What I studied, that's what I wanted to do. But I'm going to get to that point very closely to make this a bit shorter. What I recognized in that phase, when we came to the end, God allowed me to go to training. That was my practice. Literally, I was in training. I was on training because in training, when I had to do presentations, I had to prepare presentations. I had to learn how to develop stuff online, flyers, all that stuff. And guess what happened? After I left, my business started. When I got into a new job, my business started. And what I do now is that I actually teach. Because in life coaching, that's what you're doing. You're teaching, you're doing presentations, you're speaking. And then it all made sense that girl from 16 up until the age of now was always in preparation. He was always preparing my steps. So when I was thinking, I should have gotten more CXC, should have been more focused, it had to happen so that I would become even more determined and I'll be more eager to pursue the things that I wanted. And it all led me right back into a circle. So that's why I said at the beginning, he has a way of redirecting your path if you sway from where he's taking you. And that's exactly what happened for me. So that's how that 16-year-old girl got to where she is today.
Wow. You have so many amazing moments in your life. There's just so many different places I can go. One of the questions that I have is kind of taking a little bit of a step back to some of your experiences at the beginning,
Mhm.
when you got to this place where you were being told, okay, your math is not where it needs to be. How would you even consider getting accepted into college? But you still found that drive and desire to move forward. What advice would you have for a listener that is finding themselves in a similar situation? So maybe it's not exactly their math is not where it needs to be, but maybe there is something that they feel like disqualifies them from taking the next step. What advice would you have for a listener that's trying to navigate that space?
That's an excellent question. Most times when we feel less worthy, it's because we are worthy. The enemy is not
Ooh.
going to steal, you're not going to find a thief. A thief will not come and steal from an empty house, because there's no reason to steal from there. So when you start getting those thoughts coming in your mind, and you're thinking, oh my God, I don't deserve this, I'm not ready yet, this is not for me. And then those thoughts that you are
I'm adding
hearing,
that to my notes. Keep going, keep going. If you see me looking to the side, that's me adding it.
those thoughts that you are hearing is thoughts that you are actually telling yourself. And why are you telling yourself? Because people are telling you, and those persons who are actually telling you those things are people who are deflecting what they're feeling on you. Because what's happening is that they're jealous of the fact that you have made a decision to step out. You are courageous. You've decided that you're going to go beyond. They wish they had that courage, and they're seeing that you're doing it. So we don't want you to go past this. So let's pull you back, like the crabs in the bucket. Let's tell you that you can't make it and you can do it. Let's get you to believe it so that you can stay down here with us and we can feast together. But what you do when those things happen, why not me? Ask that question. Why not me? Why not now? Why is it that I can't deserve it? Because God says everything is possible through him. So why is it that you can't do it? You're thinking about it because it's something that God is calling you to. He's pulling and pushing you to. And all you need to learn is how to navigate it. That's where your challenge is. Just figuring out, how do I navigate this? Because it's uncharted waters. You've never done it before, so you're unsure. So what do? You pursue someone who's been there before. You get in a space with people who are there before. Fill yourself in environments where people can actually encourage you and lift you up so that you can pursue that thing. But don't stay stuck listening to people, because what they're doing is they're giving you advice on something that they've never done. How can a plumber tell a doctor how to do a job? Can. You don't know. It's so different. So don't waste time listening to them. It's unsolicited advice. Don't do it.
You said, how can a plumber tell a doctor how to do their job? And even vice versa, how can a doctor tell the plumber?
That's right.
He called the plumber for a reason, or she called the plumber for a reason. Whoever they called the plumber for a reason.
Come on.
Girl, what? That's so good.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Like, you took me out. Most of the time when you feel less worthy, it's because you are worthy.
That's right.
What?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So along those same lines, because along those same lines, what advice would you have for an audience member that really connected with that, and they're in that space where they're like, well, I can accept what you're saying. I can accept that there's worthiness there, but I don't know how to truly receive and accept that for myself and live based on that truth. What advice would you have for them as they try and figure out how to truly accept and live that aspect of truth that they are truly worthy?
Most of the times when we are questioning our worthiness is because we are struggling with past traumas. Past traumas have really dictated to us that we're not worthy because of different things that you would have gone through and things that you would have done. And it's because of things that you would have done in the past that makes you feel undeserving. So the first step I would suggest is that start to write down the things that you think that makes you unworthy. And then when you're finished, then give a response. So if, for example, you say, I believe that I'm unworthy because, I came from poverty, or, my family never did this or did that, so I can't. And then your response to that thing is, because they never did, it means that I have to do it. because they never did. So they need somebody, to show them how. So you have to now respond to those things from the positive light. And many times we're spending time in the negative light, and that's drowning us out, is pulling us out, is really depleting us. So you want to come forward to the light and look at the positive. So what if you went ahead and you do that thing? So you have an idea, a brilliant idea to start a business, but because nobody in your family has ever done it, you think that it's not going to work. How about you don't go to your family and you go to somebody who's done it before, and you get the knowledge and, from them, because they've already gone before you. So that helps you to, to speed things along, get the knowledge, get the information, get the assistance and the strategies that you need, and begin to implement it. You have to now tell yourself, it's about building your self-esteem, and it has a lot to do with your self-confidence. You need now to start looking at yourself in the mirror and start using affirmations. I am more than enough. Because God says it. And if God says that, then anything anybody else says doesn't matter. It just doesn't make sense. You just throw that out because it doesn't make sense. I am valuable. I am deserving. And that thing that we tell ourselves, Amber, we say this to ourselves all the time, like, especially Christians will say this, they don't want to be rich, they don't want to have that much money. It's because we don't understand the power of money. And just because you never had it before, it does not mean that you can't have it now, because you have a goal at hand. You have a purpose. There's a vision that God has planted on the inside of you. And having money is there to help you. You're not going to worship the money, but money is like oxygen. If I stop breathing now, I'm dead. If you go broke right now, it's like, what's going to happen? You can't survive without money. You need it to do every type of transaction. So nothing is wrong with money. You see, our relationship with money is wrong. That's what needs to change. So if that's where you are and you're saying to yourself, I'm not worthy to go and apply for that loan to start that job, to start that business, then why not you? Because everybody's going to the bank. Everybody's coming up with these ideas and going and getting assistance. Why can't you do it? It may mean that there's information, that there's an information blockage that's missing, that you don't know right now, which means that you now need to discover that. So you now need to pursue those individuals with that information so that it can help you along. But don't stay stuck because of things that everybody else is saying.
Wow. There was so much in your response there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So good. And I'm with you. I've heard this whole thing, like, this fear of money. And I'm like, I feel like,
no,
we got stewardship over here.
That's
like,
right.
So bring it on, Lord. I'm here for it.
That's right. No, what can a broke person do for you? Nothing.
What?
Nothing.
What?
Exactly. What? Yeah, even the church needs the money to sustain itself. So why must I be broke?
Okay, why? Why?
No.
I don't like it. I've been broke.
Yeah.
I don't think that's God's best for me either.
That's right.
Oh man, love it. Okay, so now taking just a real quick step back into your story. You had a lot of moments of transition where you felt like, okay, this is the vision for life. This is what I want. And there were different shifts, different curves, different turns. What advice would you have for, I'm going to even say myself, because I do live in consistent moments of transition, as I feel like most people do. So what advice would you have for myself or any other audience member that's finding themselves in those spaces where they have a vision and they feel like, okay, this is where things are supposed to be going, but there's a turn or a shift in the journey? What advice would you have for us that are those of us that are trying to navigate that?
That's a brilliant question again. So my advice to you would be, in your vision, you need to figure out your why, because that's the future. If you don't know your why, you're going to get stuck every time, and it's going to change, because here's what's going to happen. The path is going to change. The tools are going to change. Everything about it is going to change, but the vision shall never change. And what keeps the vision consistent is the why. Why are you doing it? So whatever that vision is for you, you need to ask yourself, why? What's your reason? You have, like I was sharing with my community only a few days ago, you need to have a reason, because things are going to go topsy-turvy, things are going to die off. So many challenges are going to happen because we're going through transitions, right? And the reason why we have to go through those transitions is because we have to build scars. And building your scars is preparing you. You know, you have accumulation of scars to prove your greatness. That's the only way you're going to get there. If you don't have those things happening, then you're not able to build muscle. Okay, when you go to the gym and you start to exercise, if you haven't exercised for a while, you start to exercise, you go one day, you know, you start to feel that tightness, and you know, you're like muscle bum, what we call it over here, you're muscle bum, and your muscles are already tense and stuff. Why? Because you're building resistance. And when you begin to build resistance, it means now your body is now coming from a farm into a different formation. What's that? Your transition. You're moving from point A into point B. But in doing that, you're becoming stronger because you're consistently repeating the movements that you're making. What movements should you be making? You're making the movements towards your vision. And you're only able to make those movements towards your vision when you understand why you are doing it. You don't need to know the how, you don't need to know the when, you don't need to where, and you don't need to know those things. You just need to understand why. And that makes it clear for you. So that would be my advice to, you know, someone who's going through transition. Always understand where, because at every point in your life, there's going to be, because sometimes you have one main vision, but there's smaller visions in the midst of that vision, because there's steps that has to be completed along the way. So you need to know a why for every step. So that one major why, for example, my major why was that I didn't want to be in poverty anymore. I wanted to be able to go to the supermarket and not have to look at the cashier when I see the numbers, you know, coming up on the screen. I want to be able to just pull it out and just pay. I want to be able to go to do a restaurant and sit down and not read the menu from the right to the left. So I don't want to make a decision on a meal that I want to have because I only have $40 or $20. I want to just go and say, okay, this is what I like. This is what I want. That's, you read the menu from the left to the right, not from the right to the left. So that's why I was pursuing my vision. Now, why are you doing yours? And if you don't know it, just take some time, reflect and write it down. It's fine. Journaling is really good. Is get a quiet place, sit down, journal your thoughts, ask yourself those deep, hard questions, because at the end of it, you're going to thank yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Again, such a rich response. Well, Kamisha, we have taken a glimpse into where you are now. We took a dive into where you were at 16 and even further than that at 4. And you built a bridge for us throughout the process to get us back to the present. Now I have a question about the future. If you had the opportunity to have a conversation with your 100-year-old self, what do you hope she'd share with you about the life you live?
Wow, I love that question. That's an amazing question. I would hope that my 100-year-old self can say to me, you know what, you have done it. Because in everything I do, I don't only want to just be saying, oh, she did this or she did that. I want to leave an impact, and I want to leave empowerment. I want to be able to leave some form of influence, and influence in the fact of persons being able to implement what I have shared to make their lives better. So I know most times people look at the, building. Of course, we want to make money in our businesses and everything, but if I can get someone to come and say, oh my goodness, because I tune into your podcast on that day at that time, and you said those words, I was able to do this and my life changed forever. That for me is costly. That's priceless. And that's what I would want to hear my 100-year-old self saying, that, you know what, you have left a legacy behind, and it's okay to go now because you've built it. And the trademark is there. So what's happening is that I want to be able to build at the ceiling level for my children, so that when they come, they don't have to start from the floor. I want to start at the ceiling first. So I want at the age of 100 to look back and say, you did that. That's what I want to be able to say to myself.
Oh, so good. So good. So good. Well, thank you for all of the wisdom that you shared. Thank you for your story. If you had to give myself or any other listener working to intentionally curate a better future for themselves and for others, any final advice, what would that final advice be?
My final advice to you, those of you who are listening here tonight, is that I want to encourage you to believe in you. And you see, believe is very important, because if you don't have the belief, if you don't believe that you can, then it means that anytime someone says something to you, you're going to accept that because you're still struggling with your belief. Your beliefs helps to fuel with your identity, because when you begin to believe in yourself, your identity begins to transform, because you understand who you are, what you're capable of, what you're capable of enduring and achieving. And you know that despite whatever challenge may come, you can overcome this because you believe in yourself, so I really want to encourage you to believe that that's where it starts. Once you can believe in yourself, identify your why, have a reason for why you're pursuing that particular vision in life, where you're chasing after that goal, then you're able to execute it. And let's not just make resolutions. Let's not just write, things down and then, 3, 5, 7, 3 years later, you're thinking, oh my God, that never happened. Let's write it down. Let's map it out. Let's have a plan, and then let's execute it. It's the action part that you are lacking on. That's why you are becoming frustrated, and that's why you keep coming back to the table and repeating the same cycle year after year, because you're not executing, you're lacking in action. And if you can put that plan in place, you can be able to excel in those areas. And remember to celebrate yourself in every small step. If you've done one thing, you've completed, then celebrate like you've never celebrated before, because that encourages you. Why? Because your mind, what's going to happen when your mind begins to see that results are occurring? Guess what's going to happen? For your next step, it's going to be even easier, because the mind begins to thrive after the results, become results oriented, and then you're able then to press on and to achieve even more. So remember, if it's anything you remember from tonight, make sure you remember, believe in you, because you can do this. Yeah.
This has been so good. The conversation has been so truly rich. So for any of the audience members that want to continue the conversation with you, can you please tell them where they can find you?
Oh, most definitely. So you guys can find me at Queen's Mindset. That would be on Instagram, and also Queen's Mindset on Facebook and on YouTube as well. You can go to our website at www.queensmindset.net. All our information will be there. If you want to send us an email, you can send us an email at queensmindset.qm@gmail.com.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So good.
Yeah.
Of course. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Until next time, let's continue to engage, encourage, and support each other as we work together to curate a femme future.